Well, obviously now that round one is over, and everybody's been chatting about Australia's comeback against South Africa, 38 unanswered points. I just want to know what was your overall reaction, real-time reaction to watching this go down?
Yeah, bemusement, slight amusement. I have no idea what happened with the Boks. I mean, going 22-0 up after 18 minutes, dominating possession with 61% of it. They then leaked 6 unanswered tries. I mean, it's just madness. To be honest with you, we actually got a little bit of stick for this previously when we kind of mentioned that the Springboks had fallen off against Italy and that they had looked a bit off. And we obviously said Joe Schmidt's the best coach in the world, which didn't go down very well at the time either. And I think both points came true. This Springbok squad, let's make no mistake about it, it is an aging squad. And you only get a certain amount of time with generational players. Yes, there's a lot of very good young players coming through the South African system, but perhaps the depth is a little bit overblown. Now, they'll obviously want to go out and win in Cape Town, but that doesn't erase what happened at Ellis Park. That was a real gut punch, and it was the worst performance of the Rassie Erasmus era, bar none. But on the flip side, the Wallabies were phenomenal. And what was very interesting was even when they were under the pump and they were losing, the pace they played at was significantly higher than the Boks at all times. It didn't necessarily stick in the first 20 minutes, but they stayed in the fight. And when they started chipping away and scored that try through Dylan Peach late in the first half, that gave them a foothold. And then when they scored again, the momentum had fully swung. I mean, it was very interesting. They ended up with 923 meters gained, which is quite a lot compared to the Boks 774. And if you'd watched that first 18 minutes of the match, you wouldn't have thought that happened. So yeah, some soul searching this week for the Springboks.
Do you think Australia will be able to take this momentum and be able to move to maybe even top 3, top 4 ahead of the 2027 Rugby World Cup draw?
Yeah, I mean, heading into round 1, I would have said no, but now, yeah, I think so. I would still back the Springboks to come back and win in Cape Town this week. I don't really want that to get sort of lost in this. I think, the Boks always play better when they're underdogs. I think in South Africa, I'll probably get killed from Afrikaans, but there's the word vingat, which just means a bit arrogant. And South Africa have been arrogant, and there's got to be a reality check for their fans, for their pundits, for, the coaches, and that, players feel that. Every country has it, and it's not exclusively a South African thing. Ireland were flying close to the sun, and there was arrogance there, and they've fallen. New Zealand have had it. Every country have had it, but there's a reality check there for South Africa. They went so far ahead that they thought they'd won that match within 20 minutes, and they switched off. Australia were phenomenal to keep playing. But in reality, you got to keep your foot on the throat. And I actually don't think someone like the All Blacks or Ireland would really let a match like that slip. To answer your question, in Australia getting into the top 4, certainly. I mean, when you look at their November series, there's some really tough matches in there. And if they get some big wins, that could just propel them up to it. I do still think it's a big ask when you look at the points overall.
I think we were saying last week in our preview video that, for South Africa to stay dominant, they just have to keep winning these games, keep winning Rugby Championships in particular. And so the fact that they let that game slide this past weekend, I feel like they're definitely going to come back into Cape Town with maybe some vengeance and, maybe some tough knocks. But do we think that this past weekend was a warning sign for the Springboks? And do you think they'll take that, as an opportunity to, I guess, go harder in this game?
It's unpopular and it's been disagreed with by a lot of South African fans because there is talent coming through. They won the Under-20 World Cup this year, but players like that take a good few years to come through. This South African team have had a generational run for 5 years. They've won 2 World Cups in that point, and they've won 2 Rugby Championships in that point. That's huge for South African rugby. The only country that matches that is New Zealand. And again, when you look at New Zealand were winning the World Cups and the Rugby Championships, which for me just keeps them that bit further ahead of the Springboks in terms of greatness. I think there's warning signs there. I think it's a very much an aging squad with a real drop-off in terms of talent and ability below them. If you lose someone like Ivan Etzebeth, there's quite a bit of trouble there. Arceus Neyman played well for Leinster, but he's been more up and down in years recently. Franco Mostert, Lud de Jager, both of them, in my opinion, are past it. So that's your first 4 choices in the second row gone. Sia Khaleesi, I thought he looked really good at number 8, but I don't think he'll be first choice at number 8 when players like Cameron Hannon come back in. So where do you put him? Do you move him back to 6? Because Marco van Staden for me was pretty poor against the Wallabies. So I do think there's actually a lot more question marks. And then at 10, I think the Manny Lebok experiment is done. I mean, I don't know how you keep picking him. Lebok is world class when the Springbok pack is on top. If the Springbok pack faces any issues and they're not winning the game line, he still tries to play a wide ball all the time, and it puts the Springboks under massive, massive pressure. His goal kicking is not reliable enough. He's got great, flashy, intermediate kicking game. His tactical kicking game for touch is subpar. That's where Handré Pollard comes in. So South Africa are really at a crossroads for me. Do you lean into what you do best? Pure physical power, big splits on the bench of a 7-1 or a 6-2, so 7 or sometimes all 8 forwards on the bench, which is risky, and you lean into a big kicking 10. In my opinion, I would back Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu now and get him running the 10. I still really rate Handré Pollard. I probably rate him more than most people do. I mean, the guy's a double World Cup winner, and if you want to play a really tactical, tight game, he's your man. I just don't think it's in the Springboks' identity to play this multi-phase game like New Zealand and Ireland. And I think Tony Brown, although he's a really world-class coach, I don't think he's the right fit for the Springboks, in my opinion, at this point. I think the Springboks should lean into what they do best, because that's the talent they've got coming through. That's what they do best too. You're always going to have electric outside backs in South Africa, but the rest of the team just needs to be big power carriers.
Speaking of the Springboks squad, you just came out with a piece the other day about how Rassie has made 10 changes to the lineup going into round 2. Can you just dive into that a little bit? Again, maybe who are you excited to see out of these changes, and how it's going to be different this time around?
It's really hard to read Rassie, because this could have been his plan all along, to have 2 big changes. You know, again, we go back to the little bit of perhaps arrogance of thinking you can just pick multiple teams and they'll win every match. We just saw that the team they picked last week couldn't beat Australia, so that was the reality. This one, I'm excited to see Pollard back. I'm excited obviously to see Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu on the bench. I keep going on about him. He's for me the best prospect in World Rugby, and I'd love to see him get more game time. Cheslin Colby coming back makes a massive difference. And Erge Snyman in the second row, really excited to see him coming back. So I think those changes make a big difference off the bat. I also love seeing Oxenechukwu moving into a leadership role as the vice captain with Jesse Creel, who in my opinion, I think Creel had his worst game in the last that he's probably had since before the last World Cup. I thought he was very, very poor in Johannesburg. So I think he's fortunate to be hanging on to his position in terms of players who I would have changed. But yeah, I think Cheslin Colby coming back makes a big difference all the time. And I think, again, Snyman coming back into the second row, I'm excited. I think he's built for a fixture like this. So those would be my 2 key headlines, with Pollard and Sasha as the 2 10s. So it'll be interesting to see where they deploy him. Yeah.